Mom, can we get a Range Rover? We have a Range Rover at home. This is the Range Rover at home. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dietrich, and today we are test driving a brand new 2026 Honda Passport. This is an RTL Passport with the towing package, so it's a base model with the towing package. For all intents and purposes, it's a base model. And all new Passports come with the same drivetrain. We have a 3.5 liter Honda V6, 285 horsepower, 262 torque, hooked up to a 10-speed automatic transmission that sends power through what Honda calls an IVTM4 all-wheel drive system. The engine, as with every J-Series Honda V6, is very rev happy. It sounds very nice. It's a little light in the low-end torque department, but the 10-speed automatic has enough gears to keep it in the power band when it needs to be. The all-wheel drive system is essentially Honda's version of Acura's super handling all-wheel drive. So it can send up to 70% of the power to the rear, and then the rear axle can do torque vectoring, which means it can send all of its power to one side or the other. This is meant to be more active on a dry road to kind of push the car through a turn. That was what Acura originally meant it to do with their super handling all-wheel drive. But I would assume, since this one has all kind of modes for off-roading, mud, sand, whatever, it would also do something to help you get traction off-road in this car. I've not done any off-roading with this car because that's not really my thing. I drive cars on the road for the most part. So what is this thing like to drive on the road? Well, it kind of puts me in mind of a Range Rover. And when I say Range Rover, I'm talking about an L322, which was sold in the US from 2003 to 2012. That's my favorite of all the Range Rovers, and the best, I would argue the best of all the Range Rovers. This is not as smooth because it doesn't have the air suspension, so you do feel some starch in the suspension. You feel the bumps, you feel the road more than you would in a Range Rover. And it handles a little bit better than an old Range Rover because it's not as heavy, and the all-wheel drive system is more sophisticated in this car, especially for on-road purposes. And, but the command driving position, you do feel higher up than you do in a Honda Pilot, which this is based on. The view over the sort of flat, square hood is Range Rover-ish to me. And really the look of the car from the outside, how it's a two-box, very bold, angular two-box SUV profile, but it's not real long compared to, you know, Pilots and some other mid-size to full-size SUVs. That looks Range Rover-ish to me. And I actually think, you know, in a lot of ways, when I'm making comparisons to the Range Rover, this is like, Mom, can we get a Range Rover? We have a Range Rover at home. This is the Range Rover at home. You know, it's not as nice as a Range Rover, obviously. But one part where I would say this is actually better than a new Range Rover is you notice it on the street. The new Rovers, both the full-size Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport, to me, they just blend in with traffic. They don't look special. They don't set themselves apart the way that previous generations did. The new Passport does that. This car's been on the road for probably a couple of months, and I noticed them in Southern California where I am. There's, you know, I've seen quite a few of them on the street. So it has that presence that you don't really get in a new Range Rover. So in that way, it's better than a new Range Rover. Probably not better than an L322, but that's why this car reminds me of a Range Rover. It is a nice car to drive. I would assume it would be good off-road and good in the snow. Especially, I'll bet if you put this thing on dedicated snow tires, something's going on. It would be fantastic in the snow. Just because of the all-wheel drive system and the ride height. It doesn't have a 2-speed transfer case, so there's no low 4-wheel drive. So off-roading, you know, you could definitely do some stuff with it off-road, but it's going to be limited compared to the serious off-roaders, including a big Range Rover. Just because it doesn't have the 2-speed transfer case, it doesn't have the height adjustable suspension, any of that kind of stuff. But I like the fact that Honda did more. You know, the first generation Passport really just looked like a truncated Pilot. It was just like a Pilot that they kind of smushed. This car, they gave it kind of more of its own styling personality, and I like that about it. I have no idea what's going on here, and I don't really want to be involved, so we'll just do that. So I think this definitely looks better than the old Passport does. I like the digital gauge cluster. I think they did a good job on that. There's a lot of stuff to like about this car. It is, I mean, everything's gotten so expensive. It is expensive. This car, the MSRP on it's over $47,000. And granted, they all come with leather seats. They all come with Google built in, so it's got like its own maps, and you can ask it stupid questions and make it change the temperature. Set the temperature to 69 degrees.
Okay, changing the temperature to 69 degrees.
So you can do that. So there are a lot of nice features, but yeah, I mean, it's, you know, 47 grand doesn't get you a premium stereo system. It doesn't get you surround view cameras. It doesn't even get you a moonroof. So, you know, it is pricier. And I don't think Honda, with the first generation Passport, they never really hit their mark with it, because when they came out with the lower end models, they were trying to compete with like the higher end models of the Subaru Outback. And then they were also trying to compete with like the Toyota 4Runner, you know, the more rugged, off-roady, adventure-ish cars. And by adventure, I mean like going camping twice a year or going surfing or some nonsense. And all they really truly did was cannibalize Pilot sales, but they must have sold enough of them to make this investment in the second generation, because the car's back, it's more bold, and yeah, it's funny, Toyota just redesigned the 4Runner, and I've reviewed one of those. Would I rather have this or a 4Runner? I'd probably rather have this. Yeah, I think I would. I like the way this looks better, and even though this is expensive, the new 4Runners are too. I mean, they get, you know, Toyota with the option packages are so annoying on those cars that they can really get pricey fast. And Honda still doesn't do that. It's still, you know, it's interesting. On their website, RTL is the base, and then you have RTL with towing package is like a separate, they make it look like a separate option package on their website if you go build your own. But on the Monroney label for this car, it's just like, it shows the towing package like it's an option, but technically it's not. You have to order a separate model. That's how Honda does their things, and I actually prefer that. You have less flexibility when ordering a car, but it just makes things so much simpler. And I do like the engine in this better than the engine in a new 4Runner. The new, I haven't driven a hybrid 4Runner yet. The one that I drove was kind of a basic model, and it had the 4-cylinder turbo. And that was fine, but yeah, a vehicle of this size is better with a 6-cylinder. So yeah, I guess I'd rather have this than a new 4Runner. The Honda Passport, your passport to fun and adventure. The original, the OG Honda Passports in the US was like a van thing. There's a guy in front of me in a Civic going hard. I love guys who bought Honda Civics and they think that they got a Veyron, and they're just like, I got the fastest car on the road, watch this. And it's like, buddy, you got 158 horsepower and acne, calm down. Although I don't love the idea of following the, whatever. This guy in this first gen Tundra in front of me looks like he's got his stuff mostly tied down. That's pretty much all I have to say about driving the old Passport. It's not as smooth as a Pilot. I have reviewed a 2025 Pilot, but it shouldn't be, because this is like a Pilot's more of a family SUV, and this is more like adventure-y, off-roady, sporty SUV, so I'd say this thing pretty much is what it's supposed to be, and I do really like the way it looks. I will put a link to my full review in the description in the comments. Please leave me a comment and like my video and subscribe to my channel. And always have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.